Good morning, friends. Beth-El and beyond. This is Cantor Melissa for our Tuesday morning sing-alongs. Happy day. Should I say buenos dias? And so this morning, I really just wanted an excuse to wear my flowers this morning and my pretty necklace. But we'll be singing songs this morning from our Sephardic and Ladino tradition in Jewish music. And I thought today would be the best day to do that. I can't imagine why. So hopefully that will bring you some smiles this morning. It's a little bit dreary here in Indiana today, so and cold. So I thought that this would bring some brightness. There's no song sheet today because I think that this type of music will be good for you to just sit back and enjoy and just listen to and hear about. So let me tell you a little bit about some Sephardic and Ladino music. So in Evan wants to say hi, so go ahead and give a wave. There we go. Okay, there, he got it out. Okay, so you should know that the history of Jews in America is one of a Sephardic tradition. It's a history of Sephardic tradition, and which is odd for us to hear. You may think that sounds odd because most of us are from the Ashkenaz tradition, myself included. But the first Jews to come to America. Hello, Rabbi Dennis. He knows all of this. He was talking about this the other day. The first Jews to come to America, of course, were from the Sephardic tradition, and they came in the mid-1600s, of course, to what was then known as New Amsterdam, which later became New York City. And they established the first congregations here in what was then colonial America. And the first Spanish-Portuguese congregation was established in New York City. It's known as the Spanish-Portuguese Synagogue even today, and it's known as Shearit Israel. And many of you are, of course, familiar with the oldest synagogue in America. The building itself is called the Toro Synagogue in Newport, Rhode Island. And there are many beautiful synagogues that are spotted up along the eastern seaboard from colonial times, all because the first Jews to come to America, of course, were Sephardi. So we want to honor their tradition and that music, which is woven into the fabric of all of Jewish music. It's not just the Ashkenaz music that we have to think about. And what's interesting is that it is so distinctly Jewish sounding. And even though it sounds also very Spanish, it also incorporates some of the same modalities that Ashkenazi music uses. And so for those of you who are familiar a little bit with some music, technical terms, still uses minor seventh harmonies, which is that's that familiar melody that you hear, that's that familiar tune. That's that melody that you hear, that harmony that you hear in typical Ashkenazi music. And you still hear that in Spanish music and in the Sephardi music. So you'll hear that. So it sounds still uniquely Jewish, but yet you'll also hear the modality of Spanish sounding music as well. And the other unique thing about Sephardi music is that in many cases, there is Ladino, which is used. And Ladino is an interesting language, which is, it's a language that formulates Spanish together with Hebrew, but it also probably had some other Mediterranean languages infused in there too. I'm sure that Rabbi Dennis can give much more detailed history and background on the history of Ladino and certainly of Sephardi history as well. I'll do my best. I'm really just a Yiddish cup trying to sing some Sephardi music this morning. So hopefully we'll do okay. And there was even, there's of course a very distinct way of pronouncing Hebrew in the Sephardi dialect and different tonalities. But this is all just some historical stuff, just some educational stuff. Let's get into the music. And so I thought that we would start today with one of the more recognizable pieces, which is called Cuando el Rey Nimrod. And this is a Ladino folk song. And it's a song that you would sing at a bris, at a brit milah, at a baby boy's covenant ceremony on the 8th day. And so it references meeting the baby's godfather and the moel. So you'll hear the expression moel in here, moel, and that goodness and virtue will come, and that praise to God, the true Redeemer of Israel. So you'll hear infusions of Hebrew, Israel, and you'll hear also Abraham in here, Avram Avinu, and so be listening to some of these words, which will sound Spanish-ish, but they'll also sound Hebrew. So we'll go ahead and hear. And again, I'm just a Yiddish cup from Lakewood, New Jersey. So we'll give me a break here with the Ladino, and it's all for good fun. And hopefully we'll enjoy this thing along here. Cuando el rey Nimrod al campo salía, miraba en el cielo y en la estrella, viendo luz santa en la judería que había de nacer Abraham Avinu. Abraham Avinu, Padre querido, Padre bendito, luz de Israel. Abraham Avinu, Padre querido, Padre bendito, luz de Israel. Salvademos al compadre, también al moel, that's the moel, que por su zehut moza venga el goel, y llama a todo Israel, cierto lo haremos al verdadero. Al verdadero de Israel, al verdadero de Israel, al verdadero de Israel, al verdadero de Israel. Cuando el rey Nimrod. So now we'll go on to Los Bilbilicos, which is also a very familiar song. This one is about the month of May, which we have just begun here. It doesn't look very May-ish outside right now, but we'll be thinking about it. So this is a love song. This is about the birds singing and love and roses in bloom. And you'll hear the word neshama in the Ladino here, and which means my soul is on fire and it's suffering from love's pain. It's such a beautiful song. The words and the poetry are gorgeous. So the melody, though, many of you will hear is very familiar, because many people, both Sephardi families and Ashkenazi families, will use this melody as what is called a Zmirot song, right? It's a song that you would sing, a table song for Shabbos. And it's usually put to the words for Tzor Mishelo. So if it sounds familiar, you probably sat at a Shabbos table once before and sang this melody to Tzor Mishelo. So here's Los Bilbilicos. Los Bilbilicos cantan con suspiros de amor. Sufriendo de amor, me llama mi ventura, está en tu poder. La rosa en flores en These are all beautiful melodies, and you should have really heard that. That's that minor seventh harmony right there. So, and it's, you know, it's oddly Ashkenazi, Jewish, and it's also very Spanish sounding. So beautiful. Okay, here's a wedding song. So we've had a love song, we've had a bris song, and now we'll have a wedding song. I'm not sure if that's all in order, but we'll have the wedding song now. Okay, so this is Calerica de Oro. And so this is a wedding song about that we've come to see the bride, and the bride has no money, but they're going to have good fortune anyway. Even though the bride has no money, we're going to come and we're going to celebrate. Everything is fine. So that's what this song is about. So you should have heard familiar words in there, mazal, which is of course Hebrew for luck, fortune, and so those are some familiar words that we can hear in the Ladino, which is again that mixture of Hebrew with the Spanish. Okay, so now we have a lullaby, and this is Dorme, Dorme, and you'll hear also some familiar words in here. You'll hear the words of the mother speaking to her little child and singing the words of Shema Yisrael. Lullaby, nighttime, we say words of Shema before we go to sleep, so she's singing the words of Shema to her little one. So here's Dorme, Dorme. Senti gioia alla ricas de tu madre, las palabras de Shema Yisrael, las palabras de Shema Yisrael. So one of the most distinguishing features between the Spanish and the Ladino is the J sound. And I did not take Spanish, admittedly, when I was younger. I took French because I thought it was pretty. Even though my parents insisted I took Spanish, I still wanted to take French. So, so that distinguishing factor is the J, and so in Spanish, the J is pronounced, it's like a guttural sound, right? In Spanish, you would pronounce this word hijico, but in the Ladino, it ends up being more like actually a French sound, like in the word bonjour, and so it's hijico, and that's the main difference. So when you see a J, in Ladino, that's how it gets pronounced. It gets pronounced with that sound that you would hear in the word bonjour. And so that would be where you see some differences between the Spanish and the Ladino. Okay, so moving on, now we're going to get to some Hebrew. And so this is a Sephardic melody, and it's a melody that we use at Beth-El often on Friday evenings when we are singing Psalm 29. But it's with the Sephardic melody. It's based on a tune, and whether you know it or not, even in an Ashkenazi synagogue like our own at Beth-El, people are singing this song, and you may not even realize that it comes from the Spanish-Portuguese tradition. In this case, it's a Spanish-Portuguese melody. So this is, again, a familiar melody that we would sing on any given Friday night to Psalm 29. And so it's, Mizmor la David, Havu l'Adonai b'nei Elim. And so, it's from the Psalms and praising God and all of these holy different ways, and the voice of God across the waters and across the heavens and so forth, giving glory to God's name. So I'm going to sing it in the straight Hebrew. Rabbi Dennis is much more qualified to sing this in the traditional Sephardic Hebrew pronunciation of it, which he does so well. But I would have to have studied that a little bit more to have performed that this morning. So straight Hebrew this morning, but Sephardic melody nonetheless. Mizmor la David. This is part of Psalm 29. And you can hear, especially in this particular setting, that the Spanish-Portuguese tradition is much more grand. It's in a major key, and so different than the Ashkenazi tradition, liturgical tradition, especially to not have it in that minor key. And we know so many of the songs that we sing for Shabbat in the Ashkenazi tradition are much more. They have a certain, cantillation type of sound, which of course comes from the history of our nusach, which is also beautiful. But this is a very different sound. It's a very grand sound, and it has its own nusach tradition. So, okay, so now we have Yom Ze LeYisrael, which is also a Sephardic table song that you would sing as your Shabbat table. And so here we go. And this is one also that we sing oftentimes, closing song and opening song for Shabbat at Beth-El Tzedek. You just may not realize that it comes from the Sephardi tradition. So here we go. Yom Ze LeYisrael. Yom Ze Yisrael. in a more flamenco style and, you know, back to the minor key, but, you know, very distinctly Jewish, very distinctly Spanish. And we're going to conclude today with one of my favorite Spanish-Portuguese Sephardic melodies, which is Amen Shenora, which Beth-El has grown to really love. We sing this at the conclusion of some of our High Holy Day services. We have such a beautiful High Holy Day choir, and they sing this particular arrangement that we have in such a gorgeous way, and I really always look forward to singing this every year with them. And we have a much longer arrangement, so I'll just sing a little snippet of this for you this morning, and feel free to join me if you would like to. And it's a beautiful Sephardic song, though, that is often sung at our festivals. So I hope that you enjoy this little rendition. Amen, 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 Shenora. Amen, amen, amen. Amen, 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 Shenora. Amen, amen, amen. Eladir, Eladiayom, Leonesativ Navidiom, Eladir, Ayom, Leambar, Ulam, Amen, 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 Shenora, Amen, 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 Shenora, Amen, Amen, Amen. So I wish everybody a very happy day, and hoping that our Sephardic and Ladino sing-along was joyous for you, and that you enjoyed this. I love this beautiful music, and I was glad to be able to share it with you this morning. And that's it. I hope that you have a wonderful day. Thank you for joining me.